Let's kick it off because we've got tournament action here. Welcome one and all to Ascending Kingdoms, a custom Civ tournament. That's right, no normie Civs, only things created by the community. We have got 4 deeply concocted Civs ahead of us. The Scandinavians, you're going to see the Polish, but first of all, you're going to see the Persian masquerading as the Delhi and the Vietnamese masquerading as the Chinese as we kick off this tournament with Dragovan and Corvinus in a best of 3 starting on Socotra.
And I think this is a great time to actually give a bit of a shout out to the devs of this mod because they were working with a lot of constraints. I guess I should say mods because this is a team of people teaming up to make all these civilizations. And it's not easy to do with all the constraints within the game. So that's part of the reason why, let's say, when you select the town center of Corvinus, you're going to see that Chinese flag, but it's actually the Vietnamese. And the thing that, to me, was the most outstanding is the actual new stuff that they have added. Sure enough, it's cool to see models like the War Elephant being retooled to be this mobile drop-off site for Vietnamese. But the cool stuff begins when you start looking at those cool new landmarks, when you start looking at unique units as well, brand new models, and I'm not gonna lie, that is probably the most intriguing to me.
Most definitely. In fact, let me quickly turn off the chat because I just realized when we do these tournaments, because of when we're playing traditional, I hide a bunch of the border because people see things they already know, they have all the info. I find this situation is very educational because, as you mentioned, there's a lot of extra crafty, little meticulous details going on here that aren't seen at first. So one thing we discussed is actually with these Persians, aka the Delhi Civ in this one, they have this interesting dynasty subsystem that requires you to idle out your TC to go for it. I said it was very akin to AoE 2, you mentioned AoE 3. It's definitely a shout-back system and something I think a lot of Age of Empires 4 people probably won't be used to. Although you have the new system of landmarks still when you play the Civ, you've now got this side system that complements you to unlock a lot of techs and units later in the game.
And I absolutely love that system, to be honest. Sure enough, you have to idle your town center, but the trade-off is that you are able to upgrade every single unit of yours to veterancy or elite status with a single tech. And this gives you a lot of versatility and a lot of quick tech switch or quick unit switch potential.
And you're seeing something interesting actually in the Delhi base right now. There's a spearman that is staring aggressively at a building. This is the Zamnidar. It is a unique unit to the Persians. It is their spearman, but it's also a builder-type unit. Now, admittedly, its stats are going to be weak in the standard spearman, but the trade-off, of course, is that you can build with it, as you're seeing him do now to build up the Gundashapur quicker.
Yeah, I gotta say, one of the cool things I found when I was testing this mod yesterday is that a lot of the built-in features of given civilizations have been carried over in a different manner. So, like, we've seen in the base game how Delhi used their infantry to build stuff, but, you know, for people that have been playing this game for quite some time, you associate infantry building walls and whatnot with the Delhi. So it's actually very interesting to see that now you have, let's say, 2 civilizations that can do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's actually a very cool thing. They've picked up a lot of these unique things, unique functionalities that are in the game, but not necessarily used on a game-to-game basis. And they've added that to a bunch of new units, and this is why this set of mods is so diverse and so intriguing.
And on the other side, oh my god, look at this meditation garden. What an absolute... Wait a second. This is not the Medi Garden. The 1 pillar pagoda. That's interesting, actually. For a long time, people going the other way on the Vietnamese, just going for the aggressive choice. But this did get buffed and tweaked a lot since I last cast it. The big deal is that it allows you to get your worker elephants quite quickly and quite cheaply. The worker elephants basically just being a mobile drop-off building. But what I love is, if there's one thing we know about Corvinus, Lidicor, is that this man is obsessed with finding ways to make Pro Scouts work, and a 50% discount ought to do that.
That's an intriguing idea, especially on Socotra, because one thing that we've seen in competitive sets on Socotra is that space is tight, and if you start losing map control, you could start losing resources very quickly. Now, let's look at Corvinus' base. Gold beautifully tucked away at the back, it's safe. But he could easily be denied of food. Guess what? If you have Pro Scouts and you know, if you have Dragovan not really contesting the map as things stand, you can get yourself a bunch of safe food within your base. And let's not forget, being able to continuously queue worker elephants is also cool, because once you get to Castle Age, you can get yourself the Ivory Trade upgrade, and that's huge. 25 gold per minute for every worker elephant. If you start stacking them in time, that actually gives you a very nice and safe gold boost.
Yeah, I have a feeling Hosta may have got inspiration from that from the the Japanese, right? With the Buddhist monks kind of doing a similar thing. It's a cool idea. On top of that, I noticed actually since I last cast them, they added the Uma Bannerman effect to the Worker Elephant as well. Now that's interesting because the thing about the Vietnamese, if you check the houses, they offer all the auras. This is a very interesting defensive format with this civilization. They also have poisoned arrow outposts. There's a lot of kind of guerrilla warfare defensive elements to the Vietnamese. In fact, on such a small map, I wouldn't be surprised if we get treated to some explosive traps down the line.
Yeah, that's one of the cool features of the Vietnamese, and they definitely feel like a very unique civilization with all these quirks. The defensive buffs to the houses, the whole tunnel system that we might see later in the game. As you said, explosive traps as well. A lot of these cool little features going for the Vietnamese. I'm actually surprised we didn't see a tower rush, though. When I first saw the Vietnamese, I was like, wait a minute, you can get buffed by your houses. You can bring in your work elephants, which does have some combat capabilities. Like, this feels like a tower rush safe to me, but Corvinus didn't go for one here.
No, but I think in some ways it was good because this is a Gunda Shapur play. Dragovan, he actually got the 40% discount on the wood cost of archers. So these very expensive Kamandars are only costing 65 resources right now. But if you check their health, you'll notice, as well as their tower range, these are basically like more tanky longbows with slightly lighter damage.
I agree, but I think the highlight of your statement there is the cost. 30-35 is extremely cheap for a feudal age unit. And usually when you look at a lot of feudal age aggression, the constraint that you're working with is that you simply don't have the resources to mass produce an army for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
If you lose your army, you cannot really rebuild it. But because you have such a big discount, you can swarm your opponent a lot easier, and that's exactly what we're seeing from Dragovan. He is going up with, or he is coming up with the battering ram, and this could be an interesting timing.
Well,
I don't think this is going to be in time.
No, yeah, the cancel is huge here. The resistance headquarters, that's basically a town center that can also stealth your villagers to make it easy to not get dove so simply. And that's important, actually. If Corvinus had completed that, he could have at least hidden from what's coming. Because Dragovan likes rams for one reason and one reason only. I'm surprised it's not a siege tower instead. I think Dragovan's about to start clown carring.
That could be nasty. And Corvinus doesn't really have much that he can defend with right now. Sure enough, he's got the defense buff. Congratulations. But besides the 2 towers in the town center, he has virtually nothing that he can work with. And let's not forget, those towers can only garrison 3 villagers each. So that's also an issue that Corvinus is facing here.
I think what he really needs here, he just needs this complete landmark. It will give stealth to the nearby villages. So here we go. Tech's about to complete. Corvinus should be disappearing. There we go. Stealth gets activated, so he shouldn't be seen right now. Looks like Dragon's going to have to back away. I think he realizes why this might not work. The villager hall feels a little bit overkill from Corvinus, but at least keeps pushing this back. And remember, those are poison arrows being shot by the TCs, so if you hang around too long, it does hurt. Luckily, rams can't be poisoned.
Yeah, that's still a lot of villagers lost over here for Corvinus. Let's not forget, he is on 2 TCs now, but he ended up losing 6 villagers. He's down by 7 eco, so even with Dragovan not being able to actually make this ram push happen, just picking off those villagers is already valuable, and I guess he can just focus down the pagoda here.
Yeah. I mean, it's just easy targets. In fact, the ram is going to start heading in towards the resistance headquarters here. Now, remember, you can see by the little white glow around them, these villagers right now are hidden. The interesting part is Dragovan does still have his scouts. Every once in a while, he can run in, but like that is how you get killed. Big mistake made, a miss micro, and now there's going to be some difficulty being able to snipe these villagers. Have we actually got any semblance of a tech up coming at home? I don't think so. Dragovan is just hard committing. In fact, he's even now going for the Bavandid Dynasty. Very cheap. Only costs, I think, about 30 resources roughly, and does take, I think, 8 seconds to complete.
That's the cheapest deck in the game. 8
right?
and 18. It's like, you could have given that for free at this point.
I mean, in fairness, if we're being real about this, it is infinitely more expensive than Delhi Tax.
That is true. That is true. Nevertheless, this is just going to be a double down on the archers, and now we're going to see the Zamindar being mixed in. That's why he needed that dynasty. I haven't seen any Bavandid swordsmen, but apparently you can get them in Feudal Age even.
Yes, I think it's when you go for the Gundashapui that option opens up, or at least that's the way it used to work here. They're pretty cool though. The whole idea is they basically have a special charge that allows them to do a lot of initial damage. It's kind of like having a two-legged knight. Not as quick, but does have that initial wallop. Corvinus. Ooh, a heavy delay. Now going to the knights. Dragavan had the right read here. Because this pacing, the Zamnadar will arrive in time to block this.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, you have 26 of these archers out here. We're talking about 1 or 2 lancers with no blacksmith upgrades. So even without the initial spears, this many archers would be troublesome for 1 or 2 knights to deal with.
Double Ram's gonna get a lot of work done here. You know, I'm starting to think Corvinus' strategy kind of makes sense if you're not playing Socotra. But on such a small map, we've seen fast castle plays can easily be punished unless you have some big comeuppance. Vietnam's not really a civ that immediately gets a big comeuppance from teching, right? I think they're a civ that likes to kind of crawl through the game, play defensive, and play a little bit later. There's no room to really do that on such a small map.
Yeah, I think the takeaway with the Vietnamese is that they are not a civilization that rely very heavily on premium troops. And when you do these fast age-ups, fast castles, or even fast imps, you're looking for these powerhouse late-game units to save you. You will be outnumbered, so you need quality there, and that's not really something that the composition of Corvinus has right now.
Now, admittedly, Dragavan has burnt a lot of archers with this dive. I think that's about 10 to 12 who've died so far committing into this. He's only got 1 spearman defending the ram. The villagers are being pulled for repair, but Corvinus is barely holding on here. 300 HP left on the landmark. Lancer is going to go down. He's got 3 more in queue, but make no mistake about it, folks. This is not China. There is no supervision. He is waiting 35 seconds per night out of a single stable.
I'm not gonna lie, I think Corvinus is holding this. It looks very grim for him, but the final ram is gonna go down, and the archer count dipped very, very heavily. It's still not looking awesome here for Corvinus, but especially if he can get a Siege Workshop out and get, let's say, a Mangonel in, things could get very, very dicey here for Dragavan. And you see the issue. Dragavan simply cannot dive under that town center. Those poison arrows,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, they look a lot more powerful than I anticipated they would be.
They're absolutely absurd. That's why you mentioned that outpost rush, Furious, why a lot of players were trying that originally with Vietnam. Outpost rushing and basically dropping landmines as you go. For those who don't know what this landmine is I'm talking about, we haven't actually seen any out of Corvinus yet. The explosive traps essentially function a little bit like a Widow mine if you're from the StarCraft community. Very effective defensively, forcing people to commit into them. But yeah, in this type of situation, it looks like Dragavan is just going to choose to go for the tech up now, which kind of makes sense. I think his window of opportunity is closed. Corvinus now has an eco lead. I like the walls coming up just to guarantee those Lancer raids don't find free targets.
Yeah, those are some good walls, and they also cut Corvinus off from all these deer. On the left side, the aggression coming from Dragavan prevented Corvinus from ferrying those in. Corvinus got like 6, 7 carcasses at maximum in exchange for that professional scout stack.
Yeah, and he also took the ones right close to the 1 pillar pagoda. Those ones would have been safe anyway, right? So like there was an argument, even with the discount, was it truly worth it? And now we do have the Nakir Castle on the way. So this was the one that I think plays into, it's been a while now, I'm trying to remember because this one did get changed. The original choice was basically this or a TC. But I think that eventually got switched around. In fact, Hosen can remind me. Basically, there was a stage, it might have been tier 2, the Persians had an option to basically get a town center. But it was insanely expensive. I think it cost like 3 or 4 times what a normal TC would to build a villager. But that definitely got kind of revamped a little bit. The Nakir Castle, but as you can see here, it is going to allow you to get access to 2 unique techs. I believe one of them was to do with the Bavandid swordsmen to make them stronger.
Yeah, I think the bigger thing here is that the moment you get up to Castle Age, Corvinus might be intrigued to do something. It's not like he has the army to do so, but the general principle is that when you age, you're exposed to aggression. So having that accelerated ability to get your Safavid dynasty tech in, it helps a lot, just making sure that your army is up to date as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing, right? You're not going to idle yourself out for a whole minute. On top of that, actually, with this comp, it makes a lot of sense. The interesting thing that the Persians have, you can see it on the UI, is the iron armor in that landmark, which is essentially a slightly weaker version of the Order of the Dragon scale armor, although in other ways it's stronger. So if I remember correctly, it's melee and ranged armor for these archers.
It's actually very busted. +2/+2 for the archers. The way to look at it is that equals to 4 Castle Age blacksmith decks on you. And You can, of course, get the blacksmith techs on top of that. So with all the blacksmith techs in Castle Age, and of course Iron Armor, you are 4-4, and that's ludicrous for a light unit.
Yeah. I think something that the modders learned when they were creating these civs is just how absurd +1, +2, or +3 armor can be with different comps. In fact, I think we're going to see that later when we get to the Scandinavians with their particular archers. Just a little bit higher of a price and definitely worth it. And it's got to be said, you know, the way he's playing these archers, it pays off. They're meant to have been 90 resources, but due to that tech, really has just turned into a jackpot at 65 a pop. And we have to always remember, sure, armored units are still going to fare well against archers, but it's arguable that the way they perform veteran versus Castle Age armored, compared to, say, feudal archer versus armored, is substantially higher, right? With the +2 tech, the higher base damage, usually you'll see these archers trade better against the initial men-at-arms and knights in this age than an age before.
And it also means that your options are substantially more limited against them. Just think about the fact that here, for Corvinus to match this with his own archers is just not an option, because that extra armor that you're getting for your range units basically means that archers won't be able to fight well against these guys. Also makes it a lot more difficult to play crossbows, because those will be a lot worse against these guys as well. So you either need mangonels, let's say, or horsemen, maybe knights. Whichever the case, these spearmen will be immensely valuable to supplement these archers.
Yeah, and the other thing is all those savings on archers adds up when you consider we're on a map with very limited wood, especially close to your base. Not as a problem for Dragavan, but had he been pressured, he'd be able to stockpile and work with what little remains. Meanwhile, Corvinus could be at risk of getting starved at this pacing. Mangonels are going to come out, so Dragavan is going to go for a switch up. So far, we are actually seeing him adding in the Kizelbash. I've seen a few players trying to make this work in the past, and every time it feels like it fell flat. In some ways, it feels like a worse Janissary.
Yes, it's a lot worse. The problem is that it doesn't have any bonus damage. So 18 base attack, it's nice and cool, but it's not like impressive, especially when it's a Glass Cannon type of a unit.
Yeah, I think it's one of those units that's probably not often that useful, right? Like, it has 85 health, it's insanely slow. 18 base does sound good, but the same attack speed as an archer. Like, if you think about it this way, the archers have, what, 8 damage? These guys don't get affected by plus range techs because they're a gun unit. So you're talking about 18 damage versus 8, but you're paying over double, right? Because the gunner here is 160 resources, and these guys are only 65. So kind of surprised to see him building them. It makes sense from a population standpoint, but from a cost efficiency standpoint, archers should feel better.
Yeah, especially when you consider that against light units, archers are actually 15 attack with the bonus against light. Now, that's actually a good point that you're highlighting. Heavy units are something that the Persians might have some issues with, because the Quizelbash doesn't have that anti-armor attack. So, especially if we start seeing heavy infantry here, men-at-arms from Corvinus, that could be something that's a little trickier for Dragavan to deal with. But yeah, just to go back to the point of your, the point you made about cost efficiency, that's also valuable on a map like this, because this map is not generally associated with very strong economies. You simply don't have time to boom up to 120 villagers. So having cheaper units is actually a very good way to get ahead of your opponent on this map.
Oh, this is sick, though. The full switch into the Safavid Swordsman with those unique techs coming in. He's got the extra health and damage, which is basically elite army tactics in Age early. Plus, he's going to have the extra arm on top of them. This is going to be super effective if you can make the transition happen. In the meantime, Dive's going to come through. There's going to be a trade out. Front lines are holding for the moment, and the Mangonels are being repaired, but Archer Fire is going to start targeting into them soon. Remember, this defense force is getting buffed. It's about as good as it gets with the extra 15%, yet it is still simply not enough. Corvinus, full mech, no bio, not a good idea in this century and age. Maybe in the sci-fi world, but in medieval times, you need bodies.
Yeah, he's been outnumbered in this entire game, and to be fair, it's really just the defensive prowess of the Vietnamese that actually kept him in this game, because beyond that point, there was just no mass for him really at any given moment in this game.
Nah, and now we have a keep drop, so he's sticking to the narrative you've set now, Lidicor. He's like, oh yes, static defenses are keeping me in this game. What if I just build a bigger static defense?
Well, for that he needs to keep the villagers alive, though.
I mean, he's got a few left. Right? Oh my god, what is this? There's no world you get this up in.
That feels like a
that's it.
kamikaze move.
He doesn't even have tech stars. This game is over.
Oh, he doesn't have gold, that's why.
Oh my god.
He ran out of gold back at home.
Well, he's got it on the left side. He's gathering it now, so you could argue this is a distraction. But I don't think gold's the problem here, Lidicor. Food is. There's a reason Corvinus was playing Mech Army, and it's because that Pro Scout's deer play fell flat on his face, just like this attempt to build a castle.
That might be a proper doubt castle, one that goes up. Oh, and it isn't even going up, although he's not pulling new bodies. No,
there's a difference between doubt. He'll spend his entire economy and at least maybe get the castle up. But Corvinus, no bueno, no shot. Age of Springwood is about 3 years late, my friend. I don't think that's going to get him back in. He just queued up 4 mangonels.
We were not given a proper doubt castle here.
So he's going for it. He's like, I've still got 26 villages. Don't doubt me.
Wait. Wait. Dragovan didn't expect that.
Oh, he'll get it up.
He cannot body block them in time.
I mean, what do you do with this now? What does this do for you? Congrats.
You GG out.
Yeah, this is like, you know that person, like in the story, the father who goes out to like buy some food, and instead of doing that, he buys a really nice shiny bauble. It's like, yes, they said this will bring us good fortune. That's this castle right now. Everyone's starving. No one can survive through the winter, but we got the castle.
I guess the argument for Corvinus is that his opponent has a fully like archer-based army. Well, I guess now it's quite heavily leaning towards the Safavid swordsman, but nevertheless, I guess he's hoping that, you know, this map in particular is one where you don't need a lot of mobility, so maybe he could just turtle forward with the siege and maybe do some cheesy keep drops and whatnot. We've seen Corvinus pull off some crazy moves, that's for sure, and let's not forget, he's on 2 TCs, and he's got the Pagoda, the Economic Ministry, to actually spam elephants for passive gold as well.
Now, that's a fair point. I wanted to bring up the 2 TCs, but I stopped myself later. Do you want to know why?
Because he doesn't have food, okay? I'm trying to make a statement on why Corvinus is still in this game, okay?
I mean, there's 300 food and a deer on the ground. Like, at this point, he's consciously choosing to ignore what little food he could have. Oh my god, he's going to try to siege a cutie this, isn't he?
I think so as well. And to be fair, that might actually be a good way of doing this. Like, his chances of recovery are very, very slim. But at the same time, if he does something cheesy like that, he might surprise Dragovan. Especially because Dragovan is still very heavily focused on infantry. Now, he made a pretty significant switch into the swordsman. I love how Corvinus repaired the Pagoda and even the Resistance headquarters, though. Because otherwise, a landmark snipe could have actually been legitimate here.
Yeah, however, the mangoes aren't safe. Remember, these Safavid swordsmen, as you can see, they get 30 damage on the initial strike from a charge-in. And that's going to be super effective here, Lidicor, because Corvinus is kind of lacking anything to block a charge.
He has the villagers.
That's true. He can block 35 charges. We figured it out.
Now, Corvinus is heavy on stone. I think he wants another keep drop, probably somewhere around that front stealth forest, and just start creeping up his opponent with more keeps. So if you're Dragovan, I don't know, maybe he should get some traps going and start shelling this keep.
I mean, I don't know, man. I'm quite confident if I'm Dragovan. Like, it cost Corvinus, what, 40 villagers to build that last castle?
He's got 37 more, though, so he can afford another keep.
Well, that's good. How many keeps do we really need to win this game?
I don't know. Probably very, very many.
This is
but
the...
guess what? I mean, it's a small arena, so at some point, Dragovan runs out of space, right?
I was about to say, this is feeling like the equivalent of the person who walks up to the roulette table and is like, oh, baby, stick it all on 69. I mean, there's very small probability of it working, but if you do get that 69 keep, Dragovan might be forced to simply surrender. Big wallop with the mango there onto the men-at-arms AFKing. I mean, I guess the upside of this is like these raiding-type men-at-arms don't really have much to raid because of how small the economy is for Corvinus.
That's true. Speaking of Corvinus, I would love to see him getting lumber carriages. Worker elephants being able to boost the build speed of your vills would be actually very valuable for these keep drops.
Yeah, it's interesting just how often we're probably going to see like small, unique techs kind of overlooked because there's just so much to kind of absorb these civs. Like, for example, if we do get to Imperial Age, I hope we see some explosive trap play because they have been designed in a way that they get quite vile and volatile with their blast range and damage, essentially being upgraded like demo ships. It might actually be a good idea for Corv. Like, I'm kind of surprised he still hasn't tried to go into explosive traps. They only cost 25 wood. And if you're trying to play this mass mech strategy, as I like to call it, it would be nice to have this kind of front line of mines to clear out the MAA.
Now, Dragoman's army is very beaten up here. Those previous mango shots, that's going to sting, because as much as he has the numbers advantage, at the end of the day, a lot of these units are extremely heavily banked up. And Corvinus is creeping up.
He's on the way. He also does have the movement speed increase for nearby infantry, which is why you're now starting to see him adding in men-at-arms. Backstab's coming through, though. Dragovan goes after the housing. He might think about going after landmarks here.
Yeah, he should. I mean, taking out the houses won't really do much here. It's not like Corvinus really has a lot of population to work with.
No, and instead he's going to end up backing away. I guess he's just trying to buy time with this play. In fairness to him, Dragovan is almost complete with the farm transition, right? He's down 36 farms deep. So this is where the men-at-arms spam is going to be non-stop. Sure, you might be able to obliterate one wave, but what about the follow-up afterwards?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? And he accomplished what he wanted here. He pulled back the Mangonels, or he forced Corvinus to pull back the Mangonels just by diving in and threatening these landmarks. Now, speaking of that, it would be intriguing just to see maybe one or two ramps starting to knock these landmarks down, because if Dragamon wants to make sure that Corvinus cannot play this full siege creep, his best option would be to keep threatening these landmarks.
We have actually got a switch coming in from Dragovan across to the Mace Horsemen as well. So pretty similar to the Ghazi Raiders. But a sizable and logical solution to the massive siege here is they do get the bonus damage against siege. That is,
and you can get a Turkoman horse upgrade as well, which gives you plus 25 HP. Makes those horseman-style units extremely valuable for the Persians.
And you may notice he never bothered getting that iron armor that we said is OP. Clearly, this is because Corvinus fought ahead and countered the plan by going mass mangonels.
Well, Corvinus has quite a lot of traps here, and I feel like Dragovan needs to start making something happen, because one thing that has been happening recently is that he's been losing houses, and because of that, he's non-stop supply blocked.
Oh, you know how you fix that? Send him in. He's on the move. Mangoes, get ready to fight. At some point, crap will get off the pot, man. Oh my god. Is he really going to lose like this?
I'm not gonna lie, this is getting alarming here for Dragovan. Because he can't really breach this position. Again, honestly, I feel he should be trying to ramp push that main base and just making this a base race. Because one thing that Corvinus cannot really do is quickly get to these landmarks and finish them off. He needs this slow creep to happen. And this creep is not something that Dragovan can breach. He's also being outnumbered very heavily on the Springald count, so simply getting Springolds out as anti-siege won't work. But if he were to just dive these landmarks from Corvinus, that would force Corvinus to go back.
Now, we do have mass cav on the way. This is the way you break it, right? As a mixture of lancers as well as the horsemen coming in here, there is really no defense against this. Like, Corvinus, he's built a handful of men-at-arms. He has 0 speeds. And given the movement speed, mass mangoes will do some damage, but should not be able to stop him from breaking through here.
The ridiculous thing is that behind all this chaos, somehow Corvinus has 3 relics. I just now realized.
Right? Yeah. There's another one up for grabs. He's been sitting and chilling like this for a while. And I also just feel bad for Dragovan with these archer raids. It's like, it's a good idea. But Corvinus is just gathering wood and gold for most of this game, right? Like, for most of this, it's just, how do I afford more siege?
Yeah, again, to me, Dragovan is a little too passive here. I get it, he wants to stop this creep, and if he does, it's game over for Corvinus.
Oh no, the wall.
But if he doesn't, it's game over for him.
Not the wall, not like this. Should be able to burn through quickly, needs to as well. But that's creating a choke point. He's going to start running into the villagers. Are now frontlining. Mangoes start to deploy. Shots are coming in. Horsemen trying to break from the left side. Men-at-arms get squished on the right. And that small group from Corvinus holds the choke point. Pushes Dragovan back, and he went from being at 70 military now to only 39.
Again, I feel like I'm repeating myself here, but I don't think that Dragovan can break this position in any way, really. Like, this is true trench warfare with these hideouts, with all these mangonels, and Corvinus is playing that masterfully. At the same time, Corvinus has no defense back at home.
No.
If you sent all these cavalry and the men-at-arms to just take out those landmarks, Corvinus would need to respond.
And Dragovan once again into the breach this time. However, the Mangoes are not looking. Cavalry do get in. This might be what he's waiting for. Corvinus, a slight overextension. And that could be 4 Mangoes going down. A big part of his defense removed.
Oh, that's gonna be nasty out there, but at the same time, what's the cost that Dragovan had to pay for this? His entire army is gone as well.
You say that, look at the second wave of cavalry. He's pumping, he understands. Why have I been wasting my time on these worthless swordsmen? It's the year of the pony. Mass horsemen and lancers now diving in. Villagers having the front line. After Corvinus worked so hard to build his villager count back up, it's plummeting once again.
Yeah, he gets the quick walls going, though, and that means reinforcements cannot get in. Costly losses for Corvinus, but at the same time, let's not forget, he's back to 60 eco and he's got a couple of relics as well, so remassing isn't as difficult as it used to be.
Horsemen need to really start targeting the villages, right? You see he's kind of fixated on getting rid of the Mangoes, but I think he's already done a good job of that. The Mango count's down to 3. It can't immediately wipe an army. It's all about these villages. Villages that still, after losing 88, you think, right, normally, after you lose 88 villages, textiles sounds like a good deal. No, of course.
It certainly does, but he doesn't seem to care, and guess what? Dragovan is down to 12 army. Army count is 5. Actually, that must be a wrong indicator at the very top. Siege apparently isn't being factored in here.
Wait, for what?
For the army count of Corvinus, he's listed at 6.
Yeah, but he's got the plus 33.
Oh yeah. I keep forgetting that. Yeah, I was looking at it and I was like, wait a minute. There's no way he's got 8 army with all these. Well, it's 8 units, right?
You're like, wow, Vietnamese like siege only takes 1 pop. That's broken. No, yeah.
But nevertheless, the thing I wanted to bring up is that Dragovan went from 70 army all the way down to next to nothing. He's got now 14 lancers in queue, but actually, he's got quite a few stables, but it takes some time to build that up.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised he didn't stay on the Ghazi. I felt like the Ghazi were actually starting to walk through. The only problem is that he was kind of trickling them. We've got 12 more now heading in. However, these outposts, dude, this is so toxic. So those outposts are actually much cheaper, right? Like, you build faster, they only cost 75 resources for the Vietnamese. The trade-off is you can't, like, get arrow-slits in them. You'd have to garrison units. But what they are is a choke point that stops mass cavalry from swarming the siege. We even have mines.
That's actually really good. And Corvinus has gotten the build speed bonus. So he can quickly build these walls, the towers, and the mines even. And it's just so difficult for Dragovan to push against this.
Yeah, this is overwhelmingly toxic. The thing you got to keep in mind is he's just been gathering wood non-stop and the plan started to reveal itself. These things only cost 25 wood each, folks. You can spam them up the wazoo. I've seen screenshots where it looks like you're walking through a graveyard. There's so many stones sitting there.
And there is the first landmark gone here from Dragovan. The others could soon follow, and again, I can't help but wonder how this game would have looked like if he decided to just dive the landmarks of Corvinus.
Right? Falls the fight elsewhere. He done it originally, and then he just kind of stopped. It's not like Corvinus has any landmarks anywhere near that castle, near that choke point. And now, with the little Takeshi's castle walling this going on, we're creating a nice little maze here that guarantees Corvinus always has an area to shift up into. He still has plenty of room to drop more of those mines.
And it's too late now for the Dragovan. This is what I was referring to before. Now that Corvinus managed to creep this close, the landmarks of Dragovan are being threatened. He needs to deal with this ASAP. If he attacked Corvinus' landmarks 5 minutes ago, Corvinus wasn't close enough to take out those landmarks on the other side. And he would have had to respond. Now it's too late. Now you can't go for Corvinus' base, because if you do, you're just going to get sniped immediately.
And this is the tough part, right? At this stage, when they get this close, you consider pulling the villagers, but if a few of those mines get built, they do 30 damage each. 2 of them will wipe all the clumped up villagers. It's just not an option here. Dragovan on his last legs. What a turnaround. What an outcome. I don't think anyone could have seen this for game number 1. Corvinus looked like he had no beep on the heart monitor for at least 5 minutes. But now he's never felt more alive. Dragovan goes to the dive in. The Mango Smash comes in big. He could not clear out the siege quick enough. And I think we are going to be looking at game 1 going to Corvinus.
This is such a classic Corvinus game here, man. all that cheese, all that craziness, and it looked very dicey for the last 20 minutes of the game, but then you see why Corvinus is one of the big fan favorites of the scene. He can pull these absolutely ludicrous and crazy moves, and he can somehow make them work. Dragavan, he's trying his best to snap these siege weapons, but, I mean, the
So
Gundershopper is being sniped at this point. If he doesn't take out these traps in like 30 seconds, the landmark is gonna be gone. Dragavan is out of wood.
He's got nothing left, really. He's just trickling troops at this stage. We said that's not the path to success, the path to a win. There's just enough men-at-arms and lancers from Corvinus to hold on. A rewall comes in, and that surely has to be it. He doesn't have the torch power. He doesn't have the repair. GG gets called. Corvinus from behind gets an absolutely insane win in game number 1 of this BO3 to kick off Ascending Kingdoms.